Welcome to the sleep hours, the only place where cartoons fall asleep before you do. So grab your blanket, tuck in your favorite plushie, and let's get weird. So tonight's story is from the world of Adventure Time, where Finn and Jake light a quiet campfire under the stars. It's not about wild quests this time, just a peaceful night, a flicker of magic, and a dream that wants to stay a while. It began with a still night in Ooh, not the spooky kind of still, like when the wind stops, because something creepy's watching you. No, this stillness was peaceful, the kind of quiet that made the stars blink a little slower and the grass hum softly in its sleep. The kind of quiet that tiptoed up to the windows of the treehouse and tapped on the glass like, "Hey, time to settle down." Inside the treehouse, Finn was upside down on the couch. "Jake," he muttered. Legs flopped over the backrest, arms dangling toward the floor. "I can't sleep. My brain's making too much noise." Jake, who was already stretched out on the kitchen counter in the shape of a big squishy S, opened one eye lazily. "Want to hear a weird idea?" Finn flopped to the floor, limbs all tangled. "Always." Jake yawned, his face stretching into a sleepy smile. "Let's go outside. I'm going to make the comfiest campfire in the multiverse. Maybe it'll, I don't know, soothe your brain juices." "I am very open to that," Finn said, rubbing his eye. "Yeah." He grabbed his sword, then realized they didn't need it. Then grabbed a blanket instead. They stepped out into the yard, which shimmered under moonlight like it was dipped in dream syrup. The grass swayed just enough to feel alive, and fireflies danced in sleepy spirals. Jake stretched into a long, gentle arc and scooped up sticks, moss, and some kind of sparkly rock he insisted was half firewood, half bedtime magic. In the center of their little patch of yard, Jake made a small fire ring. He hummed a little tune as he built it, slow and steady. Then he tapped one finger to the middle of the pile, and with a sound like a sigh, the flames came to life. Soft, blue, and completely calm. The fire didn't crackle like normal fires. It murmured, like it was telling secrets to the stars. Finn sat cross-legged on a pillow Jake had stretched into a beanbag. "This is amazing," he whispered. "It's like the fire's dreaming." Jake stretched out beside him, tail coiled like a warm donut. "That's 'cause it is. I didn't use regular wood. I used dream wood. Grows only once every 100 years on a floating hill in the nap dimension." Finn blinked slowly. "That a real place?" "Dunno," Jake mumbled. "But it feels like it is." They sat in silence for a while. Not the awkward kind, more like the kind you don't want to break. The kind where everything makes a little more sense when you stop talking. Then the fire shifted color from soft blue to pale gold. A quiet pop echoed from the flames. Finn looked over. "Did you hear that?" Jake nodded. "Campfire's ready." "Ready for what?" Jake reached into the flame. Not into it, really. Through it. His paw didn't burn. It shimmered. He pulled something out slowly, a small, glowing orb. Finn's eyes went wide. "What is that?" Jake turned it gently in his palm. "A memory bubble. The fire pulls them out. Not bad memories, just the comfy ones. The ones you forgot you loved." The orb floated up, hovering just above the fire. It swirled with soft images. Two kids riding a sled made of banana peels, laughing like fools as they slid down a hill made of frosting. Finn leaned forward. "Is that us?" Jake said, grinning. "Banana sled hill, you were like 7. "I do remember that," Finn laughed. "That hill was sticky." The orb popped like a soap bubble, scattering sparkles that faded into the smoke. "Fire likes it when we remember things," Jake said. "Makes it burn steadier." Another orb floated up, this one showing BMO tucking them into a couch fort made of waffles and socks. Finn's face softened. "That was the best nap day ever." The fire glowed warmer. Finn leaned back, pulling the blanket up over his legs. "This is like the opposite of an adventure." Jake grinned. "Sometimes the best adventures are the quiet ones." They let the orbs come and go, each one carrying another soft flash of memory. A lazy picnic with Princess Bubblegum where they napped under a tree. That time, Lady Rainicorn told them a bedtime story in Korean, and Jake translated it with exaggerated gestures. A night when it rained marshmallows and they roasted them right off the windowsill. Each memory flickered, shimmered, popped, and with each one, Finn's eyelids got heavier. The stars blinked above them, steady and slow. The fire whispered, a sound like a lullaby only trees could hear. Finn stretched, yawned, and curled up on his side. Jake? Yeah, bud? Don't let the fire go out. Jake yawned too. Wouldn't dream of it. And the fire burned on. The fire flickered gold, then lilac, then a deep sleep blue. A warm breeze passed lazily through the yard. Not strong enough to chill, just soft enough to tickle the edges of the blanket draped over Finn's shoulders. Jake scratched his belly with a lazy paw and murmured, "You know, I think this fire can do more than memories." Finn rolled onto his back, resting his head on a stretched pillow Jake made appear with a pup. Like what? Tell stories? Bake dream cookies? Shoot lasers of calm into our eyeballs? Jake blinked slowly, a dreamy grin on his face. Nah, man. I think this fire can listen. Finn squinted. Fires don't have ears. No, Jake said, gesturing with a paw. Not like that. I mean, like, you talk to it, and it kind of shows you something back. A vision, a dream bubble, whatever it thinks you need. Finn raised an eyebrow, clearly skeptical. Okay, Mr. Sage of nap time, then you try. Jake sat up and scooted closer to the flame, puffing his cheeks thoughtfully. All right, fire. Hit me with a dream. Something that'll mellow my mellow even more. The flame shimmered, then wavered like someone exhaling through silk. From the center, a tall, twisty shimmer rose, a soft projection, like smoke made of light. In the vision, Jake stood on a cloud shaped like a pancake, floating through syrupy skies. He had an umbrella made of toast and a cup of cocoa so warm, the steam was spelling out lullabies. Lady Rainicorn floated beside him, humming softly. The vision faded, drifting upward into the night like a balloon losing interest in gravity. Finn chuckled. Okay. That was oddly sweet. You try, Jake said, stretching into a C shape and flopping back down. Finn scooted forward. All right, fire. Show me what you got. Surprise me. The fire pulsed once, twice, and then a new image formed. Finn was younger, maybe 8 or 9, wearing an oversized hat and holding a toy sword. He was building a tiny pillow fort in the middle of the woods, one he had made all by himself. No magic, no help. Just blankets, sticks, and determination. Jake leaned in. Dude, I totally remember that fort. Fell down like 5 times. Yeah, Finn said softly. But it was mine. The first place I called mine. The vision stayed a moment longer before curling into smoke and vanishing. Neither of them spoke for a while. The campfire crackled softly, not loud, but with enough rhythm to feel alive. Its flames moved like they were dancing to music no one else could hear. Then slowly, more orbs began to rise. But these weren't just memories or visions. They were half-thoughts, emotions, glimmers of sleepy feelings that didn't have names. Finn watched as one orb hovered between them, showing only a blanket of stars, a familiar sigh, and the sense of having almost figured something out before sleep swept it away. Jake reached up and gently bopped the orb with one finger. These are the in-betweens, he murmured. You know when you're not quite asleep, but not quite awake. This fire's got access to that zone. Finn looked at him. Are you saying we just build a fire that taps into the liminal realm of cozy? Jake smiled. Yep. A few seconds passed. Then they both burst out laughing. Not loud, not goofy, but that kind of quiet, tired laughter you only share at night. The kind that rolls out slow, like molasses, and feels warm all the way through. Okay, Finn said, wiping a tear from his eye. This is better than any adventure I've ever been on. Jake nodded. We should write a book. How to make a dream fire and chill forever. I'd buy that book. You'd write that book. They leaned back again, letting the fire do its thing. The yard was wrapped in darkness, but not the scary kind. This was soft darkness, the sort that felt like it was tucking you in. Owls hooted sleepily in the distance. Somewhere far off, a river burbled like it, too, had just yawned and closed its eyes. Another orb floated up, this one filled with sound. It wasn't a memory. It was a song. Wait, Finn whispered. Do you hear that? Jake nodded, ears twitching. The orb was playing a lullaby, one they both recognized but couldn't quite place. No words, just soft melody, harp-like, floating on the air. I think that's Mom's song, Finn said suddenly. Jake sat up straighter. Whoa, yeah, that is. They listened in silence. Not because they had to, but because they didn't want to do anything else. And as the song faded, the orb gave a final spin and dissolved like fog touched by sun. Jake sniffled. Hey, Finn said, gently nudging him. You okay? Jake smiled. Yeah, man, just... wow. Yeah. Finn settled deeper into the blanket, pulling it around him like a shell. How does this fire even know that stuff? Jake's voice was soft. Maybe it's not about the fire knowing anything. Maybe it's just helping us remember what we already know. The fire glowed deeper now, shifting from soft gold to a warm coral pink, like the inside of a seashell that had been dreaming for centuries. Finn let out a long breath. This might sound weird, but I feel like this fire isn't just showing stuff from the past. Jake stretched, one leg extending like a sleepy noodle. You mean like it's showing stuff from the future? Not exactly, Finn murmured. More like stuff that's happening in our heads right now, but dream style. Jake blinked slowly, processing it. Like it's dream painting your thoughts. Exactly, Finn said, eyes wide. It's painting my sleepy brain like a mural of napness. Jake pointed at the fire. All right, then dream mural fire. Show us what's up. A swirl of pale green sparked in the flames, spiraling upward into a transparent image. Finn stood on a grassy cliff wearing pajama armor and holding a sword that looked suspiciously like a giant marshmallow. Jake was floating next to him in the shape of a sleepy moon. Behind them, an army of snoring sheep marched in perfect harmony, their hooves making soft, clop, clop, clop sounds that matched a lullaby rhythm. Okay, Jake said, squinting. So your sleepy brain thinks you're a pajama knight with a marshmallow blade. I can work with that, Finn grinned. At least I look heroic. Another orb floated up. It was Jake this time. His dream self was a big plush couch with arms, a face, and even a wagging tail. Finn was curled up on top of him, fast asleep, while tiny creatures shaped like glowing raindrops floated above them, sprinkling dreams like glitter. Jake chuckled. That is disturbingly accurate. You're basically a snuggle vehicle, Finn teased, kicking at his boot. I am a luxury nap platform, Jake replied with mock pride. They both cracked up again. The laughter melted into the night like honey into tea. Above them, the sky deepened. Midnight blue laced with silver clouds, each one drifting so slowly it was like the world itself had stopped to rest. The stars blinked patiently like they had all the time in the universe. Suddenly, the flames shimmered again and shifted into a flickering swirl that rose higher than the others. This time, the vision was different. It wasn't just a funny dream or a warm memory. It was quiet, sacred almost. Finn and Jake were both much older, sitting on the same hill, watching a tiny campfire. Around them were others, friends, some familiar, some new. Even BMO was there, softly humming. Everything in the scene moved slowly. like it was being remembered before it had even happened. Finn leaned closer. That's us? Jake tilted his head. Dang, I got more wrinkles, but still look fly. The vision flickered and disappeared without a pop. Just a gentle fade. Finn sat quietly, a thoughtful look settling over his face. Hey, Jake. Yeah? You think maybe we've been rushing too much? Trying to chase big adventures, fix big stuff? Jake nodded. Kinda feels that way sometime. Maybe, Finn said. We forgot how good it feels to just sit. To just be. Jake reached over and gently bumped Finn's shoulder with his own. I didn't forget. You just needed a fire to remind you. Finn smiled. You always know what to say, man. I'm like a fortune cookie made of fur. As they spoke, the fire gave a low hum, like it agreed. Finn leaned back once more, resting his head against a rolled-up blanket. We should do this more often. We are doing it, Jake said with a grin. In fact, we're doing it so hard right now, I'm getting sleepy just listening to myself be wise. The fire shifted again, tiny embers floating upward like sleepy fireflies, each one carrying a whisper of something peaceful. A laugh from years ago, a warm afternoon, the echo of a bedtime song long forgotten. Finn closed his eyes for a second. I think I could actually sleep out here tonight. Jake stretched into a blanket and gently wrapped part of himself over Finn like a sleepy snake. Do it. The fire's got us. The wind rustled the grass like it was tucking them in. Above, the stars blinked slower, and the fire glowed on, gentle, wise, and filled with all the kinds of dreams you only find when you're not looking for them. The fire glowed deeper now, shifting from soft gold to a warm coral pink. Finn let out a long breath. This might sound weird, but I feel like this fire isn't just showing stuff from the past. Jake stretched, one leg extending like a sleepy noodle. You mean like it's showing stuff from the future? Not exactly, Finn murmured. More like stuff that's happening in our heads right now, but dream style. Jake blinked slowly, processing it. Like it's dream painting your thoughts. Exactly, Finn said, eyes wide. It's painting my sleepy brain like a mural of napness. Jake pointed at the fire. All right, then dream mural fire. Show us what's up. A swirl of pale green sparked in the flames, spiraling upward into a transparent image. Finn stood on a grassy cliff wearing pajama armor and holding a sword that looked suspiciously like a giant marshmallow. Jake was floating next to him in the shape of a sleepy moon. Behind them, an army of snoring sheep marched in perfect harmony, their hooves making soft clop, clop, clop sounds that matched a lullaby rhythm. Okay, Jake said, squinting. So your sleepy brain thinks you're a pajama knight with a marshmallow blade. I can work with that, Finn grinned. At least I look heroic. Another orb floated up. It was Jake this time. His dream self was a big plush couch with arms, a face, and even a wagging tail. Finn was curled up on top of him, fast asleep, while tiny creatures shaped like glowing raindrops floated above them, sprinkling dreams like glitter. Jake chuckled. That is, disturbingly accurate. You're basically a snuggle vehicle, Finn teased, kicking at his boot. I am a luxury nap platform, Jake replied with mock pride. They both cracked up again. The laughter melted into the night like honey into tea. Above them, the sky deepened, midnight blue laced with silver clouds. Each one drifting so slowly it was like the world itself had stopped to rest. The stars blinked patiently, like they had all the time in the universe. Suddenly, the flames shimmered again and shifted into a flickering swirl that rose higher than the others. This time, the vision was different. It wasn't just a funny dream or a warm memory. It was quiet, sacred almost. Finn and Jake were both much older, sitting on the same hill, watching a tiny campfire. Around them were others, friends, some familiar, some new. Even BMO was there, softly humming. Everything in the scene moved slowly. like it was being remembered before it had even happened. Finn leaned closer. That's, us? Jake tilted his head. Dang, I got more wrinkles, but still look fly. The vision flickered and disappeared without a pop. Just a gentle fade. Finn sat quietly, a thoughtful look settling over his face. Hey, Jake? Yeah? You think maybe we've been rushing too much? Trying to chase big adventures? Fix big stuff? Jake nodded. Kind of feels that way sometimes. Maybe, Finn said. We forgot how good it feels to just sit. To just be. Jake reached over and gently bumped Finn's shoulder with his own. I didn't forget. You just needed a fire to remind you. Finn smiled. You always know what to say, man. I'm like a fortune cookie made of fur. As they spoke, the fire gave a low hum, like it agreed. Finn leaned back once more, resting his head against a rolled-up blanket. We should do this more often. We are doing it, Jake said with a grin. In fact, we're doing it so hard right now, I'm getting sleepy just listening to myself be wise. The fire shifted again, tiny embers floating upward like sleepy fireflies, each one carrying a whisper of something peaceful. A laugh from years ago, a warm afternoon, the echo of a bedtime song long forgotten. Finn closed his eyes for a second. I think I could actually sleep out here tonight. Jake stretched into a blanket and gently wrapped part of himself over Finn like a sleepy snake. Do it. The fire's got us. The wind rustled the grass like it was tucking them in. Above, the stars blinked slower, and the fire glowed on, gentle, ease, and filled with all the kinds of dreams you only find when you're not looking for them. Finn drifted somewhere between a waking smile and a dream-soaked blink, watching the fire like it was a portal, not to another world, but to all the gentlest corners of his own. The campfire's colors had softened again, now glowing a low lavender hue that barely touched the grass. Even the shadows around the treehouse looked relaxed, stretched out like sleepy cats. Jake had curled into a soft half-donut next to Finn, his tail gently pulsing with rhythmic breaths. Every few minutes he muttered things like, "No more waffles, they're sending now," or 5 more sleepy raccoons and I'll have the full set. Classic Jake dream logic. Finn chuckled to himself, then shifted his gaze back to the fire. This time, the flames didn't rise or form shapes. Instead, they shimmered inward, curling in on themselves like a secret folding up for safekeeping. Then, with a gentle flicker, a voice hummed from the smoke. It wasn't a word. It was like someone remembering a lullaby, just barely. No lyrics, no tune, just the shape of comfort. Finn froze, then softened. It sounded like the kind of sound you hear when you're wrapped in your favorite blanket during a storm. The kind of comfort that doesn't need explaining. "Jake," Finn whispered, nudging him. "Hmm?" Jake blinked, slowly unfolding. "You heard that, right?" Jake sat up, ears twitching. "Whoa, yeah. What was that?" "I don't know," Finn said. "But I feel like the fire is telling us something." Another orb floated upward, but this one wasn't glowing like the others. It was muted, like moonlight through curtains. Inside, there wasn't an image, but a feeling, one that wrapped around them like steam from a favorite soup. Safe, whole, known. Jake whispered, "That's not a memory, dude. That's a bedtime." Finn tilted his head. "A what?" "A bedtime. Not just the act of going to sleep, but the feeling of being ready to. Like when everything's finally still. The fire's bottling that up." Finn let the feeling wash over him. A bedtime. He'd never thought of it like that before. Not just an action, but a moment. A kind of inner silence, rare and golden. The orb floated between them and dissolved without a sound. A gentle breeze swept over the hill, and somewhere in the distance, a chorus of frogs sang the softest lullaby Finn had ever heard. Offbeat, lazy, and perfect. They both listened for a long time. Then Finn, voice barely above a whisper, said, "Jake? Hmm? Can a fire dream?" Jake thought for a moment, then smiled, still half asleep. "I think maybe this one doesn't need to." Finn blinked. "Why not?" "Because we're dreaming for it," Jake said. "It just reflects us back." As if to confirm his theory, the fire rippled with a soft blue pulse and formed a slow, swirling spiral, like a dream draining gently into the sky. They lay still, watching it swirl. Time thinned out, no longer concerned with passing. Everything just was. Another orb rose, then another. This time, they didn't show anything. They didn't need to. They simply passed by, tiny floating thoughts that didn't need naming. Finn's voice was slower now, half caught in the drowsiness curling around him like vines. "Jake, do you think if we fall asleep right here, the fire will keep showing dreams?" Jake yawned deeply, his face melting into the blanket. "Definitely. Probably even better ones. That's when the real dreamy stuff kicks in." Finn smiled. "Then I'm going to let it. I'm not going to fight to sleep tonight." Jake mumbled. "Finally, my plan works." The two of them settled back into their cocoon of blankets and grass and firelight. No monsters, no missions, just warmth, just memory, just dreams unspooling like sleepy ribbons. Above them, the moon hovered low, casting its own silent blessing over the yard, and below the campfire burned quiet and steady, waiting. The sky had turned that inky color right before a true night takes hold, the kind that feels heavy with stars like the sky had put on its fanciest pajamas. Somewhere in the distance, a sleepy bird chirped once, realized it had no reason to be awake, and promptly dozed off mid-note. Finn was now fully reclined, the grass beneath him, feeling more like a mattress with each passing minute. The blanket tucked around him was half real, half Jake's shape-shifted warmth. The kind of comfort you can't buy, only grow. The fire dimmed slightly, not from dying, but like it had taken a breath and settled into its softest rhythm yet. The flames barely danced anymore. They swayed, slow and steady, like leaves falling in reverse. Above them, a final orb rose from the fire, larger than the others. It hovered between them, glowing gently. Within it wasn't a memory or a scene or even a sound. It was an invitation. Finn and Jake both stared at it, eyes heavy but still filled with wonder. "I think this is it," Finn murmured, barely louder than a thought. "This is the big one." Jake didn't respond with the words. He just gave a soft, already halfway in a dream. The orb began to shimmer with color, pastels that seemed to flow and drift without form, like if a painting could yawn. The light from it gently brushed their faces, softening even the faintest lines of thought or worry. It was peace, floating in a bubble. Finn watched as the orb slowly ascended, climbing higher into the night sky until it disappeared among the stars like it belonged there, like it had never been separate from the sky to begin with. Then the fire, still alive, still warm, let out one single, deep flicker of golden light. A final good night, glowing just long enough for Finn to smile. "Hey, Jake," he whispered. A muffled voice emerged from the blanket coil beside him. "Yeah? I think this is my favorite night we've ever had." There was a pause, then, "Same." Finn closed his eyes and listened. Not just to the fire, but to the absence of everything else. No battles, no villains, no to-do lists. Just the low hum of dreams beginning to take root. He wasn't sure when sleep took him. Maybe it was right after the fire sent up one last spark that looked suspiciously like a sleepy bee wearing a nightcap. Maybe it was when Jake's tail curled protectively around his ankle. Maybe it was when the night sighed and the trees nodded in approval. But when sleep came, it came gently. It came like a friend who knew the exact moment to knock on the door, and Finn let it in. The campfire, wise and steady, burned on, tending to its dreamers, collecting the warmth of remembered laughs and unspoken wishes. It didn't flicker to stay alive. It flickered to comfort. All across Ooh, things slumbered. Enchanted lakes that glowed faintly in their dreams. Libraries that whispered bedtime stories to their own books. Clouds that floated slower than usual, too cozy to bother drifting far. And at the center of it all, on a quiet hill with a sleepy treehouse just behind them, two best friends rested beside the gentlest fire the multiverse had ever known. Dreams curled upward like smoke. The stars blinked their approval. And for just one moment more, the whole world leaned in to listen. Then it let go, and everything fell into the hush. Finn opened his eyes, but not really. He felt his eyes open, and the moment they did, the world around him shifted like a blanket being pulled gently off a sleepy head. There was no ceiling above him, no roof of the treehouse, no sky like the one in the waking world. Instead, he was floating, not falling, just drifting. The space around him shimmered like warm jelly, stars lazily blinking in hues of mint and pink. The sky had texture, like velvet you could walk on if you felt like it. And there, just a few feet away, was Jake, stretched into the shape of a floating armchair with cup holders and a soft snuggle mode switch where his nose should be. "Yo," Jake said casually. "You made it." Finn spun slowly in the air, arms and legs weightless. "What is this?" "The Dreamlands," Jake replied, tail wagging in slow motion. "The campfire's still burning back there. We're just inside its dreams now." Finn stared down, or what felt like down. Beneath them was a soft, glowing map of Ooh, but reimagined in dream logic. Mountains shaped like sleeping cats, rivers that curled like ribbons and ended in teacups, entire forests made of pillows. "Jake," Finn said, "this is the best nap ever." "Dude, it's not just a nap. This is full-on REM mode imagination zone. And we got the whole night to explore." Finn twisted midair until he was upright, landing gently on a puff of floating cloud shaped like a turtle. It gave a sleepy grunt beneath his feet, but didn't mind being stepped on. "I want to go there," he said, pointing toward a hill made entirely of stacked books that snored with each breeze. Jake stretched into a slide and zipped over. "Hop on, dream dude." Finn leapt and slid down Jake's side with a whee that echoed like wind chimes. Together they drifted across the dreamscape, passing between drifting islands of memory and floating bubbles of surreal nonsense. A giant BMO floating upside down while DJing lullabies, a flock of penguins knitting scarves out of fog, even a distant shadow of Ice King trying to catch a fish made entirely of stardust. "Everything's so soft," Finn murmured, touching a cloud that rippled like pudding. "It's like the laws of physics just decided to take a nap." Your dream bubblegum, right? Technically, yes, she said, pouring tea into cups made of folded flower petals. But I still know stuff. Finn took a seat, his dream body somehow knowing exactly how to relax in a chair made of air. Like what kind of stuff? Like the difference between sleep and rest. She smiled. Everyone thinks they're the same, but they're not. Jake sipped the tea and instantly shrank 3 sizes, not in body, but in intention. His fur literally deflated like a balloon sighing. Oh, man. Yep, that's it. PB looked at Finn. You've been carrying a lot. You're brave, you're strong, but you never let go, even in sleep. Finn held the cup to his lips. Maybe, I don't know how to. Start here, she said. Let the tea work. Let the dream work. You're safe. You don't have to be a hero right now. Finn took a sip. And just like that, the background noise of his own thoughts faded. The what-ifs, the should-haves, the noise of being needed, gone. Just quiet. Not the kind that feels empty, the kind that feels full of peace. Jake giggled. I feel like a marshmallow in a hot tub. A dream BMO rolled in, softly singing lullabies through a bubble blower. BMO's sleepy time parade is here. Go slow, let go, disappear. Finn laughed so hard he snorted, which somehow summoned a soft puff of glitter from his nose. This is the weirdest thing I've ever loved. PB stood, her chair gently folding to a flower. Enjoy it, boys. The dreamlands stretch far, but always remember, you're dreaming together. Stay close. As the dream versions of their friends faded into glowing stardust, Finn and Jake drifted onward, now carried by a boat made of bedtime books and feather sails. They didn't know where they were going, and for once, it didn't matter. The current of their shared dream carried them forward. They passed sleeping whales floating midair, trees that gently hummed lullabies, and clouds shaped like memories they couldn't quite recall, but felt soft and right. Jake turned to Finn. Do you think we can come back here whenever we want? Finn thought for a moment. If the fire remembers, and we remember how to be still, yeah, I think we can. The sky grew darker, not in a scary way, but in a it's time to sleep even deeper kind of way. The stars brightened. The world exhaled. And ahead, something shimmered. A doorway? As they passed through the curtain, the world shifted again. This time, they were standing in what looked like a vast indoor fort. Blankets stretched over chairs, glowing string lights hanging above, and hundreds of softly humming dream objects floating in the air. Paper planes drifted lazily. A mobile of stars turned with invisible hands. A plush dragon blinked sleepily at them from a nest of cotton balls. Finn gasped. Dude, it's a fort from when we were kids. We're way upgraded. Jake poked at a hovering jelly bean that giggled and turned into a glowing moth. I think this part of the Dreamlands is built out of our sleep memories. They wandered in further, bare feet padding silently on a carpet of cloud stuff. Every corner was soft, inviting, and oddly familiar. In one room, Finn spotted his old Finn sword, only it was tiny, about the size of a pencil, and being used as a flagpole in a land of cookie-shaped mountains. In another, a sleepy hologram of Flame Princess floated by, her fire now gentle and blue, like a candle in a warm bath. She looks calm, Finn whispered. Jake peered at a painting that blinked when he looked at it. You okay, bro? Finn nodded. Yeah, just dream stuff. It's weirdly comforting, seeing things from my past not being all dramatic or complicated. Just soft. They passed a bookshelf labeled Good Days You Forgot. As Finn touched one of the floating books, it opened with a tiny yawn, showing a memory of him and Jake laughing so hard over spilled pancake mix that they fell off their chairs. Jake rolled on the floor. Oh, yeah. That was the day we tried to make banana waffles and ended up inventing the food trampoline. They laughed together, the memory washing over them like a warm wave. Deeper in the fort, they found a room lit by jars filled with sleepy lightning bugs. One jar had a label that said, Things You Needed to Hear. Finn opened it slowly. Out came a whisper, his own voice, younger, shakier, saying, You're doing your best, and that's enough. Another jar whispered in Jake's voice, You're allowed to rest. You don't always have to stretch yourself thin. Jake swallowed. Dang, dreamlands. Hitting hard. I kind of needed that, Finn admitted, sitting down on a floor cushion, shaped like a sleepy walrus. The lights above dimmed just slightly. A breeze moved through the blanket fort, carrying the scent of ink, popcorn, and old bedtime stories. In that moment, both of them just sat, not talking, letting the space do its thing. No monsters, no pressure. Just a floating little hideaway of soul-soothing moments. After a long pause, Finn said, Jake, this is the kind of adventure I didn't know I needed. Jake yawned. Same. Makes me wonder how many dream rooms we've never visited. Like, how much peace is just waiting for us to stop and notice it. Finn smiled. Let's find more. The fort stretched out before them, with pillow tunnels leading in every direction, each one glowing a different color, like a map made from feelings instead of roads. Jake stood up, shook the glitter off his fur, and pointed. That way. I think it smells like dream pie. Finn laughed. Then we definitely gotta go. And off they wandered again, deeper into the heart of themselves, into dreams built from comfort, laughter, and the kind of quiet truths that only show up when you're really, truly resting. The pillow tunnel Jake had pointed to was lined with stitched stars and glowing threads of lullaby light. As they stepped through, the walls pulsed softly, like the whole tunnel was breathing with them. No rush, no pressure, just a rhythm that said, You're safe. Keep going. At the end of the tunnel, they emerged into a room that looked upside down. The sky was below their feet, soft clouds like tiles. The ceiling above was a deep lake, with lily pads drifting slowly across the surface, each one holding a small, sleeping creature. A dreaming squirrel, a yawning donut, even a fish with tiny earmuffs. Finn looked around in awe. Dude, gravity's taking a nap. Jake slowly floated upward until he was lying flat on the ceiling lake. It's like the room flipped just 'cause it felt like it. Finn stepped lightly over a moon-shaped stepping stone. How is this place even part of our dream? Jake, still floating, grinned. Maybe it's the stuff we never thought to dream before. You know, the in-between feelings. The background cozies. As if responding to his words, a bridge of jelly beans assembled itself in the air, forming a gentle slope toward a glowing doorway in the shape of an ear. What? Is that a listening door? Finn blinked. Jake floated down beside him. I think so. Let's try it. They stepped through the ear-shaped door, and suddenly everything was quiet. Not silent, just still. The kind of quiet that blankets a snowy forest, not empty, just full of hush. They were standing in a wide field of silver mist. All around them, giant sleeping versions of their past adventures snoozed in the fog. There was a napping grass sword coiled around a tree stump. The echo of a battle with the lich, gently humming like a distant thunderstorm, now softened to a lullaby. Jake lowered his voice. Whoa, this place is like, emotional leftovers. Finn nodded slowly. The parts of adventures we didn't know stayed with us. A sleeping giant resembling Finn himself stirred in the mist. It had a sad, tired face, but it was smiling now. Dream Finn walked up to it and gently placed a hand on its shoulder. It's okay, he whispered. You don't have to carry all that right now. The giant exhaled and the whole room warmed. Jake nudged him. Dude, you're doing dream therapy, huh? Finn blinked. I guess I am. For me? Another soft form appeared in the fog, a version of Jake from a lonely day long ago. He looked unsure, ears drooping. Jake walked over and didn't say anything. He just gave him a hug. The version faded, not with sadness, but with relief. For a few more minutes, they walked slowly through the field of fog and memory, quietly acknowledging all the versions of themselves that just needed rest. Not fixing, not changing, just rest. Eventually, the fog began to lift. And as it did, the quiet shifted again. Not silence, not hush. This time it was invitation. The kind of sound the stars make when you're finally ready to listen. Ahead, the path curled upward, leading to a treehouse, not their real one, but a dream version, glowing faintly under a moon made of satin. Finn smiled. I think we're ready to climb higher. Jake stretched into stair shapes. Step on up, dream buddy. They climbed higher and softer into the next level of the dreamlands, where everything waited gently and the dreams weren't just weird or wacky, but wise. The dream treehouse awaited them like it had always been there, perched at the top of a soft hill that didn't quite exist in any version of ooh they'd ever known. Its ladder was made of braided yarn, and each step felt like a hug to the feet. Fireflies, shaped like musical notes, circled lazily around its branches, humming a low, calming tune in harmony with the sky. Jake reached the top first and pulled open the door with a slow creak that didn't sound scary. It sounded sleepy, like the house itself had just stirred from a nap and didn't mind the company. Inside, the space was glowing softly with a candlelight that didn't need to be lit. Everything looked familiar, but not exact. A memory painted with dream colors. There were their favorite beanbags, a shelf with exactly 3 comic books Finn had forgotten he loved, and a painting of Lady Rainicorn asleep in a hammock over a field of stars. In the corner was a tea station, kettle already steaming, cups labeled J and F, sitting on cozy coasters shaped like pancakes. Finn entered slowly, his footsteps hushed by the plush carpet made of old adventures. He looked around a little wide-eyed. This feels like what I wanted the treehouse to be when I was little. Jake settled into a doughy couch that shifted into the exact shape of his perfect nap pose. Oh, it's like the Dreamlands made us a version just for sleeping. Finn moved toward the window, where the view outside showed clouds drifting across a sky filled with softly glowing constellations. But instead of stars, each constellation was shaped like an old bedtime memory. The time they built a fort inside a fridge. That one snow day where they made cocoa for the whole Candy Kingdom. Even a tiny, flickering moment when Finn fell asleep on Jake's back during a long quest. Jake floated over, now balloon-sized and weightless. You see that one? He said, pointing with a tiny tail to a star in the shape of BMO tucking in a plushie. Finn nodded. Yep, the night of the spilled soup. Jake chuckled. The sleepiest disaster we ever survived. They laughed together, but it was a quiet, sleepy laugh. The kind where your eyes already feel half closed. The kind where the punchline doesn't matter as much as the person next to you. Outside, the dream sky shifted colors like an aurora made of calm. Hushed greens, dusky blues, and those deep purples you only see in dreams when you feel safe. Finn flopped down onto the giant floor cushion, shaped like a sleepy wolf. Jake curled beside him, becoming a gentle weighted blanket with ears. "Hey, Jake," Finn mumbled. "Yeah, bud? Are we still dreaming?" Jake yawned. "Totally. But in a good way." Finn stared at the ceiling, where little stars gently rearranged themselves into the word rest, then home, then together. "We're gonna wake up eventually, right?" he asked. Jake nuzzled into his shoulder. "Yeah, but not yet." Finn smiled, his whole body melting into the cushion. "Good. I like it here." The wind outside whispered, not as a chill, but as a lullaby. A sleepy owl blinked once through the window, gave a nod of approval, then disappeared into the stardust. All across the dream treehouse, little details flickered into being and then softened. A candle made of melted memories, a clock that ticked in yawns, a bell that only rang when you were about to fall asleep. As Finn and Jake lay there, a quiet began to settle. Not the kind that leaves you feeling alone, but the kind that says, "You don't need to talk anymore. You said enough. Now just be." The final dream orb of the night floated down through the ceiling. It hovered just above them, glowing with the color of warmth itself. Inside it, for just a moment, was an image of the campfire back in the waking world. Still crackling, still glowing. Jake gave it a sleepy glance. "Guess that means the fire's still there." Finn's voice was barely a whisper. "Waiting for us." The orb slowly melted into the air like sugar in tea, leaving behind the faint scent of starlight and warm bread. The dream treehouse dimmed just a little, and soft music began to play from nowhere and everywhere. It wasn't a song. They didn't need one. Just a feeling turned into sound. A final soft note of welcome. Finn's eyes closed. Jake's tail twitched once, then went still. And outside the stars pulsed like a heartbeat. Slow, steady, endless. They had found the center of the dreamlands. They had found each other. And for now, that was more than enough. Finn didn't remember leaving the dream treehouse, but somehow he and Jake were now gliding across a lake made entirely of melted lullabies. The boat beneath them shimmered like moon jelly. Quiet, rocking. Made of something not quite real, but perfectly peaceful. Its sail was stitched from a page of one of Jake's dream journals, flapping softly in a wind that didn't exist in the waking world. Jake had stretched himself into a hammock across the boat's stern. "You ever notice how these dreams don't just show us stuff? They kind of listen to us, too." Finn nodded slowly, dipping a hand in the lake. It sent ripples of faint music across the surface, like a harp being plucked by water. "It's like, the dream's alive," Finn said. Not in a scary way, just paying attention. As they drifted along, little lanterns began to rise from the lake, glowing spheres that floated up like thoughts turning into stars. Each one flickered with a color and memory that tugged gently at Finn's chest. One glowed yellow, and inside it was a perfect moment from years ago, he and Jake dancing terribly around a campfire, while BMO provided beatboxing with a toaster. Another orb, soft green, showed the day Finn made PB laugh with that awful banana joke. She tried to hide it, but he saw her smile in the corner of his eye. Even now it made him grin. Jake sat up and pointed. "Check that one out." A deep blue orb hovered just inches above the lake. It was quiet. Still. Inside, it showed Finn alone in a rainstorm. Soaking wet, but standing tall, guarding a lost baby firewolf pup while the storm raged on. Finn touched it gently, and as he did, the dream shifted again. The lake evaporated into mist. The sky above folded open like a page turning, and the two of them were suddenly standing in a vast garden of glowing vines and stars. Everything pulsed slowly, like the heartbeat of the world itself. Plants whispered. Paths lit themselves with every step they took. Jake blinked. Okay, now this feels like a responsive dream. Finn turned in a circle, noticing that the sky overhead wasn't quite the same as before. It looked more like a dome made of memory, shimmering with shapes he almost recognized. Jake, he said slowly, I think it's trying to show us something. As they stepped forward, the path began to split, first into 2, then 4, then dozens of delicate trails glowing like chalk lines through grass. Each path ended at a strange dream door, each one unique. One looked like the door to their real treehouse, only upside down. Another was made of melted candy. One was completely blank, like it hadn't decided what it was yet. Dude, are we supposed to pick one? Jake asked, scratching a fuzzy head. Before Finn could answer, a soft bell rang. Not loud, just a tiny ting, like a wind chime miles away. From behind the door, something stirred. A sleepy voice echoed, not from outside, but from inside their own thoughts. Choose the wish that whispers back. Jake froze. Okay? That wasn't me? Finn's heart thumped. Not in fear, in curiosity. The dream wasn't just showing memories anymore. It was interacting. It wanted something, or maybe it wanted them to want something. Choose the wish that whispers back, Finn repeated. Jake stepped closer to the blank door. This one's calling to me. Not loudly, just a soft nudge, like a fuzzy feeling in my stomach. Finn approached a door made of stitched leaves and moonlight. His fingers hovered over the handle, and for a second he felt something. Something like a wish that had once been his, and maybe still was. I think this one's mine, he whispered. Jake raised an eyebrow. You sure? Finn nodded. It feels like me, but deeper. They looked at each other. Two sleepy adventurers in a dream too soft to map, too alive to predict. And together, they reached for their doors. The moment Finn's hand touched the leaf and moonlight door, it opened without a sound. Just a hush of air that smelled like pine, old pages, and the inside of his favorite sleeping bag. On the other side was a clearing surrounded by tall, slow-moving trees. The bark shimmered like the surface of water, and the leaves gave off a soft glow, casting a gentle lavender light. A single log sat in the middle, and on it, a much younger version of Finn was tying a knot in a blade of grass. He looked up with a quiet smile. Took you long enough? Finn stepped in slowly, feeling the grass bend under his feet, as if the dream knew him. What is this? The young Finn shrugged. This is where your wish went. Finn blinked. What wish? The one you made when you didn't even realize it. After everything. After the last fight, the last goodbye, the last campfire. Finn sat beside his younger self. The log was warm, real. I wished for... what? The younger Finn looked up at the dream sky where stars blinked in familiar patterns, one shaped like Jake's face, another like the treehouse. You wished for peace, he said. Not just quiet, belonging. The feeling you used to get when Jake played his viola and you didn't have to say a word. Finn felt something shift in his chest. I guess I forgot how much I missed that. You didn't forget, his younger self said. You buried it. Because being a hero meant always moving forward. But here, you don't have to move. You can just be. No, the dream fin said, gently untying the knot he had made in the grass. But you can stay as long as you need to. The world outside can wait. Meanwhile, behind his own door, Jake stepped into something entirely different. He was floating through a soft tunnel of colors, yellows, oranges, and sleepy blues. It felt like swimming through a sunset that wanted him to nap. Ahead, a massive Jake appeared, not scary or exaggerated, just older, wiser. A version of himself with lines under his eyes and a belly full of dreams. "Hey, Stretch," the older Jake said. Jake tilted his head. "Whoa, are you me?" The older Jake chuckled. "Sort of. I'm the Jake that remembered to slow down. The one who didn't stretch into everything at once." Jake floated closer. "I stretch too much?" "Nah," said the older version. "You just forget to breathe between stretches." The tunnel dimmed slightly, but it wasn't sad. It was like someone dimming the lights before story time. Jake looked around at the colors swirling gently. "Is this what it's like when I finally nap without thinking about protecting Finn all the time?" The older Jake smiled warmly. "Exactly. Doesn't mean you stop being his bro. It just means you rest in being his bro. Now worry about it." Jake let out a long sigh. The tunnel expanded into a space full of dream furniture. Nap hammocks, music made of sighs, and giant pies filled with cozy laughter. Jake rolled over in the air like a pup in a pile of leaves. "Man, this is better than bacon pancakes." The older Jake leaned back against the floating beanbag. "You always had the power to chill. You just needed the dream to remind you." Back in Finn's room, the younger version stood and handed him something. A folded star. "What's this?" "Something you tucked away. A part of you that still believes without needing proof." Finn opened the folded star, and inside, glowing softly, was a single word. Stillness. Finn gently pressed the folded star to his chest, and as he did, the world around him exhaled. The trees shimmered, the sky rippled like fabric, and the young version of himself faded, not in sorrow, but in satisfaction, like a candle flickering out at the exact right moment. The clearing dissolved into clouds beneath his feet, and he found himself floating downward, weightless, guided by dream instinct. The light around him pulsed softly, each glow sinking with his breath. He heard Jake's voice before he saw him. "Hey, bro!" Finn turned and saw Jake drifting through a cloud tunnel, his ears flopped back like sleepy wings. He was riding a floating bed shaped like a banana, snacking on dream puffs that popped with a mmm sound. Finn joined him, mid-drift, landing with a bounce. "How was your door?" Jake wiped a dream crumb off his chin. "It told me to chill, so I did." "You?" Finn leaned back, hands behind his head. "It told me to believe in stillness. I think I've been trying too hard to chase meaning. Sometimes it's just there, in the quiet." Jake nudged him. "You sound like a nap philosopher." They floated together in silence, letting the clouds carry them. Below them, the world of the dreamlands expanded again. New shapes took form. A giant hourglass filled with twinkling sand, a garden of sleeping instruments, and a carousel of memories slowly spinning in a circle. Finn pointed. "You think we're supposed to go down there?" Jake shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe this is the part where we just float and absorb the vibes." So they did. As they drifted lower, they passed through gentle curtains of sound. Humming lullabies, soft heartbeats, giggles from dreams gone by, each layer more relaxing than the last. Eventually, they reached the carousel. It wasn't spinning anymore. Instead, it waited, expectantly. Its painted horses yawning, the dream music paused mid-note. A sign floated beside it. "Take one more ride before you wake." Jake blinked. "Whoa. Is this the end of the dream?" Finn shook his head slowly. Nah, I think it's just a checkpoint. Like we made peace with parts of ourselves. Now the dream's asking us what we want to carry forward. They each picked a seat. Jake choosing a llama wearing oven mitts. Finn settling into a wolf with constellation spots. The carousel creaked to life, not fast, not loud, just smooth, gentle. As it turned, scenes played outside them in the fog. Not dreams, not memories, possibilities. Finn saw a vision of himself sitting by the ocean, writing songs with BMO under a parasol. Another where he was older, surrounded by younger adventurers he was training. His voice calm, his sword hung up on the wall, unused. Jake saw himself napping in a hammock on a floating island, with Lady Rainicorn curled beside him and their 5 pups flying above, trailing clouds shaped like rubber ducks. Another showed Jake opening a dream cafe, serving tea that played music based on your mood. Each vision passed with a warm hum, as if the carousel was saying, you can rest and still be whole. The ride slowed, the fog thickened. A soft whisper came again, not from outside, but inside both of them. You've remembered. Now return. Finn looked over. You hear that? Jake nodded. Yep, guess it's time to meet the fire again. The carousel stopped with a sigh, and the world faded into starlight. They were falling now, but gently. Like dandelion seeds on bedtime wind, they fell, but not fast. The world around them was a slow blur of soft colors and twinkling lights, like the inside of a lullaby. Not rushing, not ending, just guiding them gently down through layers of thought, comfort, and remembered joy. Jake yawned midair. We fallen or floating, dude. Finn stretched his arms out like wings. At this point, both. And then just like that, they landed. Not with a thud, more like a settle. Like how your body sinks into bed after a long, beautiful day. They were back at the original campfire. But it had changed. The flames were lower, glowing gold and violet, crackling in rhythms too soft to be music, too perfect to be noise. The logs had moss growing along their sides now, glowing faintly like moonlit vines. The sky above sparkled with the faintest remnants of the dreamscape they'd just returned from. Jake looked around, ears flicking gently. I think the fire has been watching over us the whole time. Finn rubbed his eyes. Yeah, it's not just a campfire. It's like an anchor, a cozy one. BMO sat nearby, dreamily strumming a tiny harp made of marshmallow strings. He didn't speak. He just nodded at them, like someone who'd saved their spot while they went off to dream. Nearby, their sleeping bags had been laid out perfectly, fluffed, warmed by the fire, and tucked just enough to feel cared for. Finn and Jake sat down side by side, watching the flames dance. Neither spoke at first. Then Finn turned to Jake. You know, I think that dream version of me, he wasn't just younger, he was lighter. Jake scratched his belly. Mine too. It's like we carry all these versions of ourselves, but we forget which ones are still with us. Finn poked the fire with a stick. I saw all the futures I never really planned, but they felt possible. Like the dream was asking, which one would make you feel rested while living it? Jake nodded slowly, and I realized I don't always have to stretch to be helpful. Sometimes just being there is enough. The fire popped, releasing a tiny puff of lavender smoke that formed a heart, then vanished into the stars. Maybe, Finn whispered. And that's what this whole campfire dream thing is. Not an escape, just a reminder. Of what? Jake asked, his eyes beginning to droop. Finn smiled, sleep starting to tug at him too. That peace isn't a place. It's a way of being. The fire flickered in agreement. In the trees, soft wind chimes made from shells and sleepy bird feathers jingled gently, playing a tune only tired hearts could hear. BMO adjusted a sleepy hat and rolled onto his side, the harp dissolving into sparkles beside him. Jake mumbled, "Finn? Yeah? I think I want to open that dream cafe someday." Finn laughed lightly. "If you do, I'll be your first customer. I'll order the extra nap special with a side of waffle dreams." Jake grinned, already halfway asleep. Finn lay back on his sleeping bag and looked up at the stars, no longer dream constellations, but the real ones. And yet, they still glimmered with meaning, like they remembered everything too. Above them, the last of the dream dust slowly faded. Below them, the earth hummed with a warm, satisfied stillness. Their breaths fell into sync. The fire crackled one final time, and as Finn and Jake drifted into a quieter sleep than before, not a wild dream, not a surreal vision, but a deep, gentle rest, the sky whispered above them, "You are home." The fire burned lower now, not because it was dying, but because it didn't need to be bright anymore. It pulsed with a soft, warm rhythm, like a heartbeat or a sleepy sigh. Finn turned over in his sleeping bag and peeked across the campsite. Jake was sprawled out, snoring lightly, belly rising and falling like a gentle tide. BMO, still wearing his oversized sleepy hat, had dozed off mid-lullaby, little pixelated Z's puffing out of his screen. Finn sat up slowly, blinking at the sky. It had changed again. Instead of the inky, star-splattered canopy from before, it now looked like velvet dipped in deep twilight. Swirls of rose, gold, and soft navy drifting like oil on water. The stars weren't stars anymore. They looked like blinking eyes, wide and curious, but not unkind. Finn whispered to himself, "Still dream." And then he heard it. Not a footstep, not a rustle, but something between a breeze and a thought. A figure was approaching the campfire. They didn't walk so much as glide, robed in soft blue cloth that shimmered like moonlight through curtains. Their face wasn't hidden, but it wasn't exactly clear either. More like a memory you almost recognized. Hair like comet trails, eyes like sleep itself. Jake stirred as the figure arrived and blinked up slowly. Who's the sparkly blanket person?" The figure gave a gentle bow and then sat cross-legged beside the four, robes folding around them like waves of silence. "I'm the dream teller," they said, a voice like wind through tall grass. "I've come because your campfire called." Finn blinked. "Our campfire called you?" The dream teller smiled faintly. "Not with sound, with stillness. Few ever reach the kind of stillness that can summon me." Jake sat up, stretching. "Whoa. Are we like, ultra-chill champions or something?" "In a way," the dream teller said, chuckling softly. "You've gone deeper into the dreamlands than most. Found parts of yourselves others never even glance at." BMO sat up too now, blinking sleepily. "Are you here to give us dream candy or bedtime treasure?" The dream teller tilted their head. "Something better?" They reached into the folds of their robe and pulled out an object wrapped in silvery cloth. It shimmered, reflecting the firelight in strange ways. With delicate fingers, the dream teller unwrapped it. Inside was a stone. Plain looking at first, round, smooth, pale gray. But then, as the firelight touched it, colors blossomed on its surface, like memories waking up. Scenes danced across it. A montage of Finn and Jake's adventures, some real, some they hadn't lived yet. The past, the possible, the peaceful. Jake leaned forward. "Is that us?" "It's your rest stone," the dream teller said softly. "It shows you not what you fight for, but what you rest for." Finn held his breath. The rest stone pulsed faintly as it showed a scene of them napping in a hammock made of clouds, sunlight dappling across their faces. "I've never seen us like that before," Finn whispered. The dream teller nodded. Because it's not about who you are when you're doing. It's about who you are when you're still. The truest selves don't shout. They whisper. Jake's ears drooped sleepily. So what do we do with it? You listen to it, the dream teller replied. You let it guide you through one final challenge, one that's gentle, strange, and quiet. Finn tilted his head. Challenge? I thought this was bedtime. Oh, it still is, the dream teller chuckled. But dreams test us gently, too. You're ready for the labyrinth of soft echoes. BMO gasped. That sounds squishy. The fire dimmed to a soft ember glow as the dream teller stood. Without saying a word, they began to walk, or rather drift away from the campsite. Their long robes whispering along the grass. Finn, Jake, and BMO stood too, a little groggy but curious. Jake scratched behind his ear. So, what exactly is the labyrinth of soft echoes? The dream teller looked over their shoulder. It's a place made of memories too quiet to shout and wishes too gentle to wake. It only appears to those ready to listen without trying. BMO blinked. I love listening, especially when there are cookies involved. They followed the dream teller into the woods beyond the campfire. But the forest had changed. The trees were no longer solid. They shimmered like watercolor paintings in a dream half remembered. Leaves whispered lullabies. Fireflies blinked in patterns that felt like thoughts. Ahead, a clearing opened. In its center stood an enormous doorway, tall as the sky, made of woven threads of light and mist. No walls surrounded it, just the door floating, pulsing like a heartbeat heard from under blankets. The dream teller gestured. The labyrinth is waiting. Jake yawned. I hope it's got beanbag floors and nap puzzles. Finn stepped closer to the doorway. So we just walk through? No, the dream teller said. You breathe through. The wind around them slowed. Even the grass seemed to hush. Finn took a slow breath in and stepped forward. The moment he passed through the glowing frame, the world bent. Not in a scary way, in a strange slow motion stretch, like the way dreams feel right before you know you're dreaming. He opened his eyes to find himself standing in a hallway of pillows. The floor was soft, made of memory foam that sighed with each step. The walls pulsed with faint lights, like fireflies trapped inside sleepy thoughts. At the end of the hallway stood 3 doors, each one slightly ajar. Jake floated through behind him like a balloon, blinking at the plush surroundings. Dude, this place is like a sleepy hotel built by clouds. BMO came next, already flopping onto a nearby pillow. This hallway is my new favorite place. The dream teller's voice echoed gently around them. Not from one place, but from everywhere. Each of you must choose a door. Behind it lies an echo, a piece of yourself you've forgotten how to comfort. Jake's tail twitched. We're going in alone? Finn hesitated. We've never done dream stuff apart before. Fear not, the dream teller's voice soothed. These are not trials. They are invitations. One by one, they approached the doors. Finn's door was marked by a faint scribble, something he used to draw as a kid. A squiggly sword and a heart with legs. Jake's door had a paw print surrounded by music notes and pancakes. BMO's door was tiny and round, and when they knocked on it, it tooted a lullaby. They looked at each other once more. Jake grinned sleepily. Meet you on the flip-flop. BMO saluted. See you in the squish zone. Finn gave a soft nod and opened his door. Finn stepped through his door and into his old treehouse bedroom. But it wasn't exactly right. The room had changed in that dreamlike way where everything felt nostalgic, but exaggerated. The bed was twice as fluffy. The walls were covered with drawings he vaguely remembered making when he was little, crayon monsters as stick figure heroes, and one of them riding on Jake's back under a rainbow. He turned slowly. There was a Finn in the bed, younger, maybe 7 or 8 years old, hugging a plush toy that looked vaguely like the grass sword if it had eyes and a smile. The young Finn opened one eye and grinned. "Hey, you're back." Finn hesitated. "I don't remember being here before." "You were. Lots of times. In your dreams, but now you're really here," the kid said. "You're the grown-up version. Cool armor, by the way." Finn sat on the edge of the bed, feeling it sag gently beneath him. "This place, feels like safety. Like how I used to feel before everything got serious." The younger him nodded. "That's why it's here? You forgot to bring this version of you with you." Finn blinked. "Bring him where?" "Everywhere," the kid said with a sleepy shrug. "You always go off being brave and awesome and swordy, but sometimes you forget to pack me." Finn looked down at his hands. "I didn't mean to." The younger Finn smiled and scooted over. "It's okay. You remembered now. That's what this room is for. To remind you that even heroes are still kids sometimes." Finn lay down beside his younger self, staring up at the ceiling, which was painted like a night sky. Not the night sky, but a dream version. One that had marshmallow stars and constellations shaped like hugs. As he closed his eyes, the younger Finn whispered, "Don't forget me again, okay?" "Promise," Finn murmured, already half asleep. Meanwhile, Jake stepped into his room, and instantly, music started playing. Smooth, slow jazz, mixed with faint, sizzling sounds. "Oh, yeah," Jake said, stretching luxuriously. "This is a vibe." His dream room was a giant floating kitchen in the sky, endless countertops made of napping clouds, cupboards that opened with giggles, and frying pans flipping dream pancakes all on their own. In the middle was a plush couch shaped like Lady Rainicorn, complete with dreamy rainbow cushions. Jake flopped into it, his tail swinging with delight. And then he appeared. Not older Jake, not past Jake, just chill Jake, wearing fuzzy socks, tiny sunglasses, and a bathrobe made of music notes. "What's up, me?" Chill Jake said. Jake laughed. "You're ridiculous." Chill Jake slid him a dream latte. "Nah, bro. I'm just the part of you that knows when to pause." Jake took the drink and let out a long sigh. "Dang, I need more of you." Chill Jake nodded. "We all do." They didn't say much after that. Just sat, sipped. Let the jazz do the talking. BMO's door opened into something wildly different. A tiny amusement park just for robots. There were cuddle coasters, logic maze puzzles that ended in nap piles, and a carousel of warm hugs. Dream robots with gentle lights waved at BMO as they arrived, offering plush toys and bedtime cookies. One robot approached, shaped like a toaster and a moon combined. "You are the kindest part of everyone," it said to BMO in a melodic voice. "I am?" BMO asked. "Yes. Even when others forget themselves, you remind them what softness looks like." BMO blushed, or would have if they had cheeks. The moon toaster bot floated closer. "Let us remind you now." And the ride began. BMO drifted on a gentle track made of starlight, through scenes of love and laughter, moments they'd helped bring joy to others. The world whispered to them. Even the smallest kindnesses echo forever. Each of them, in their own space, found something they'd forgotten. And one by one, the dream rooms faded. They met again in the pillow hallway, not fully awake, but more together than before. Jake blinked at Finn. "Did we all cry a little?" Finn grinned. "Little bit." BMO spun in a circle. "Best hallway ever." The dream teller appeared once again, their form a little dimmer now, but still steady. "You listen," they said. And now you're ready. Finn tilted his head. Ready for what? The dream teller gestured ahead. Where once stood walls of pillows, there was now a path, lined with glowing feathers, sign lights, and the scent of warm tea. The quiet crown awaits. The path ahead was unlike anything they'd seen before, even in dreams. Feathers lined the ground like a trail of gentle footsteps. Each one glowed faintly, pulsing in time with their breathing. The trees around them hummed low lullabies, their leaves curling inward like they too were ready to rest. Finn, Jake, and BMO walked side by side, not speaking at first. The air didn't ask for noise, it asked for presence. Finn eventually whispered, "You think the quiet crown is like a literal crown, or something more Mindy?" Jake shrugged softly. "I don't know, but if it fits, I'm wearing it, even if it's made of marshmallows." BMO looked around, blinking up at the stars, which now moved slowly like fish in a dream aquarium. "I think it's going to be soft, like a hug you forgot you needed." The path gently curved into a dome-like clearing. At the center of it sat a round pedestal, not tall or grand, just a mossy stone covered in light that shifted like candle glow. And on top of it, hovering just an inch above, was the quiet crown. It wasn't a crown in the usual sense. No points, no gold, no jewels. Instead, it looked like a circlet woven from dreams themselves. Wisps of memory, trails of laughter, strands of starlight, and silence. It shimmered differently for each of them. Finn saw it like braided branches from the treehouse. Jake saw it as soft pretzel loops. BMO saw a blinking light spelling out the word cozy. The dream teller stepped beside them, hands gently folded. "This crown cannot be worn by force," they said softly. "It settles only on those who remember who they are when the world is quiet." Jake tilted his head. "Okay, but what does it do?" The dream teller smiled faintly. "It reminds you of the part of yourself that doesn't need to do anything, just be. The you who's still when the fire burns low. The you who dreams even while awake." Finn stepped forward first. He didn't reach out. He just stood before it. And the crown shimmered. For a moment, it hovered toward him, glowing brighter. And then gently, like a snowflake, it drifted past his heart. He exhaled slowly. I felt peace, like I didn't need to explain anything. Jake tried next. He closed his eyes and smiled as the crown pulsed toward him, warming his fur like sunlight on a lazy afternoon. "That's a good nap stuff," he muttered. Then BMO stepped up. The crown spun playfully, blinking in rhythms like a lullaby code. It buzzed near BMO's chest, then gently spun away, releasing soft sparkles into the air. "You're already enough," the dream teller said, kneeling beside them. "None of you ever needed to prove it." They turned slowly toward the group. "You've completed the dream path. The echoes, the stillness, the quiet challenge. The crown isn't an end. It's a reminder that softness is strength, that rest reveals truth, that friendship grows even in sleep." The dome around them began to dissolve, not crumble, not vanish, just fade, like mist giving way to sunrise. The dream teller's form shimmered, becoming translucent, their eyes glowing like stars behind a veil. "It's time," they whispered. Finn, Jake, and BMO turned as the crown's glow rose into the sky, stretching out into threads of warmth that wrapped around their shoulders like sleepy scarves. The path behind them reappeared, leading gently back to the fire. They didn't rush. They just walked, soft-footed, full-hearted, ready to return. By the time they reached the campfire again, the sky had begun to shift. Not toward morning, not yet, but toward that quiet space between dreams and waking. The stars no longer twinkled sharply. Instead, they glowed steadily, like old friends holding lanterns in the distance. The fire hadn't moved. Still in its circle of mossy stones, still crackling softly, like it had always been there, waiting, maybe even dreaming itself. Finn settled down first, arms around his knees, gazing at the gentle flames. I feel like I just came back from 100 naps and also one really long hug. Jake flopped onto a blanket beside him, tail curling up like a question mark. I feel stretchy in my soul. BMO, wearing a tiny sleep mask as a hat now, floated onto a pillow and flopped with a little boop. I feel like toast, but emotionally. They all burst into gentle laughter, warm and quiet and perfect. Then, as the air hushed again, the dream teller reappeared at the edge of the clearing. This time, they didn't float. They walked. Their robes no longer shimmered like stardust, but instead hung like a soft, warm blanket. Familiar, comforting, almost forgettable. They smiled. "You've returned," the dream teller said. Jake nodded. "Yep, squishier than ever." Finn looked up at them. "So, was all of that real? The rooms, the crown, the everything?" The dream teller knelt beside the fire, warming their hands just like the others. As real as a feeling. As true as a quiet breath. They reached into their robes one final time and drew out a small pouch, stitched from moonlight and lined with dream fur. "This," they said, "is a seed." Finn blinked. "A what now?" "A sleep seed," the dream teller answered, placing it carefully beside the fire. "Plant it by a campfire. Any campfire. And it will remember this night. And so will you." BMO gasped. "We can come back?" The dream tellers shook their head gently. Not to this exact dream, but to the feeling of it. To the warmth, the stillness, the echo of peace. "That will always find its way back to you if you let it." Jake sniffed. "Man, you got me feeling things." "You already had those feelings," the dream teller said with a wink. "I just dusted off the shelves." Finn leaned forward, the flames painting shadows on his face. "Will we ever see you again?" The dream teller stood slowly. Their shape already began to fade at the edges. "Every time you choose rest, every time you listen instead of fix, every time you remember that softness isn't weakness." They turned away. Then they added with a smile, "I'm there." And with that, they stepped into the shadows between firelight and forest, and were gone. No swirl of sparkles, no trumpet of departure. Just gone. Like a dream you remember without remembering why. The clearing felt quiet, but not empty. The campfire burned on, steady, low, warm. Finn leaned against Jake's shoulder. Jake leaned his head on Finn's. BMO curled into a little ball, screen flickering softly like a firefly. They didn't need to talk anymore. They didn't need to move. They'd done the dream walking, faced the soft echoes, carried the crown, not on their heads, but in their hearts. And now, they simply rested, wrapped in mossy blankets, breathing slow, the sleep seed glowing gently near the fire. Above them, the stars exhaled. The woods around them hummed, and somewhere beyond it all, just faintly, came the echo of a voice that was wind, memory, and moonlight all at once. "Sleep well, dreamers. You've remembered yourselves." The sleep seed glowed faintly where the dream teller had left it, nestled between two mossy stones beside the fire. It didn't sparkle, or hum, or shine. It just glowed, softly, steadily, like the tiniest heartbeat. Finn poked at it with a stick. "You think we're supposed to, like, water it or something?" Jake, still lying on his back with his paws behind his head, yawned. "Nah, that's dream stuff. You just feel at it." BMO rolled over in his blanket and sat up, blinking slowly. Let's stare at it until something happens. So that's exactly what they did. They stared quietly. No rush. Just the fire crackling and the soft buzz of night all around them. Then, without warning, the moss around the sleep seed began to shift. Not wildly, not with chaos. It just unfurled. As if the forest had been waiting, too. A slow circle of soft green light spread out from the stone where the seed sat. Ferns rose gently. Flowers blinked open as though woken from naps. The ground shimmered like it had turned into a puddle of memories. And then a tree grew. Right there beside the fire dot, it rose slow and tall, its bark covered in swirls and whirls that looked like lullaby notes. The leaves were a deep lavender green, fluttering with colors that didn't quite exist in the waking world. Soft gold, sleepy purples, velvety blues. At the top, a branch curled downward like a cradle, holding something glowing, a door, not like the labyrinths. This one looked like it had always belonged in a bedtime story, carved from dreamwood, framed in soft light, hinges made of snoring feathers. Jake sat up. Is that another nap zone? BMO gasped. It's a dream portal. Finn stood slowly. You think it's for us? The door opened before he even finished asking. Not fast, not creaky. It just opened, like a breath letting go. They walked toward it slowly. Each step felt like walking into a soft thought. The kind you barely remember but feel in your chest. Inside was a forest, but not their forest. This one was beneath everything, a hidden layer of the world. The trees here glowed with soft candlelight from within their trunks. The moss was like velvet pudding. Strange creatures floated by. Pillow frogs, blanket beetles, yawn bunnies that hopped and vanished in puffs of size. There was no sky, just a dome of slow-moving clouds that sparkled gently, as though they'd stolen starlight from above. Finn whispered, "This is a forest made of dreams." Jake nodded, wide-eyed. It's like the world underneath bedtime. BMO floated along beside them, gently bopping to a silent lullaby. I would like to live here forever. As they ventured deeper, the trees began to part around them, revealing a wide clearing at the center, where cushions the size of canoes lay in circles, and warm lights drifted like fireflies with nowhere to be. A large stone in the middle pulsed gently. Carved into it were words written in dozens of languages, but all of them meant the same thing. Rest is the root of everything that grows. Finn placed a hand on the stone. It was warm, alive. Jake sighed. I think the forest made this for us, like a bedtime thank you card. Finn sat on one of the giant canoe-shaped cushions, his legs dangling off the side. It let out the softest poof when he landed, like a sigh made of whipped cream and memories. Jake melted across another cushion, his body stretching out like a slee ribbon. I've been in a lot of cozy places, he said. But this is like being inside a bedtime snack. BMO had already disappeared behind a nearby fern and returned wearing a crown made entirely of feather moss and blinking lights. I declare this place a cuddle kingdom, and we are its kings and beans. They all giggled. The kind of laughter that doesn't bubble up fast but builds slowly like warm water rising in a tub. Around them, the air shimmered. It wasn't changing fast, just adjusting, as if the forest were listening. Wherever they walked, new paths opened. Small, glowing creatures peeked out. None scary, none loud. Just curious. A flock of moon mice zipped overhead, their tails leaving trails like shooting stars. Nearby, a tree hummed and unfolded its bark, revealing a hollow filled with warm socks in every size imaginable. Jake leaned over and took a pair. These smell like marshmallows and clean laundry. Finn spotted a tall root structure shaped like a slide. Without thinking, he climbed up and whooshed down it, landing in a puff of dream dust and giggles. Okay, yeah, this place rules. But as they continued forward, the forest began to grow quieter. The glowing bugs dimmed. The laughter faded into calm. The moss beneath their feet turned even softer, like walking across old memories you forgot were happy. And then they found it. At the very heart of the forest stood a clearing unlike the others. Here the trees formed a perfect circle, and in the middle sat something small and glowing faintly. A mirror, not big, not flashy, just a circular mirror resting atop a stump. Finn approached first, squinting at its reflection. It wasn't just his face looking back. It was every version of him. Him with long hair, him as a kid, him in a hoodie, him with tears, him laughing, him quiet. He didn't flinch. He just looked. Jake stepped up beside him. In the reflection, he saw not just himself, but himself stretched tall, short, flat, round. Himself as a pup. Himself as a hero. Himself holding a pancake stack and the size of a mountain. Whoa, he whispered. It's like showing us all our layers. BMO tiptoed closer and peeked in. They saw themselves glowing like a little sun, smiling, fixing, dancing, resting. The mirror didn't talk. It didn't need to, it just reminded. Finn sat down on the moss and stared into the reflection. This whole place feels like it knows us, like it was grown from who we are. Jake nodded. Maybe the sleep seed didn't just make a forest. Maybe it remembered one. BMO tapped the mirror gently. I think it knows where dreams go when we forget them. Just then, the cushiony air shimmered again. This time, something stepped into the clearing. It wasn't a creature. Not exactly. It was a shape made of light and hush. Vaguely bear-like, with eyes that blinked like stars. It walked gently, as if trying not to wake the ground. Finn stood slowly. Hello? The figure bowed, graceful, not scary. And in a voice like wind through curtains, it said, You found the root of your rest. Jake raised an eyebrow. We did? The figure nodded. The sleep seed grows a forest only when the dreamers are ready. This place is made of your unspoken calm, of the peace you've earned. Finn stepped closer. Are you the guardian of this place? The figure tilted its head. No, you are. All of you. BMO gasped. We're bedtime kings. The figure chuckled gently. You are the keepers of your own quiet. This forest will sleep safely as long as you remember it. They stood in silence, letting that truth settle. No quests, no monsters, no puzzles, just rest. And the truth that rest matters. The bear-like figure of light bowed once more, and with a soft pulse of brightness, it stepped backward into the shadows of the glowing trees and faded from view. Not vanished, just resting again, like everything else in this place. The three friends stood in the circle of trees, still facing the mirror. BMO placed a hand gently on it and whispered, You are a good mirror. Thank you for being soft. Finn looked around the clearing. I don't want to leave yet. Jake nodded slowly. Same. This feels like what happens after you cry a little, but in a good way. All clear and sleepy. As they turned to leave the clearing, the forest shifted again, but not in a big, dramatic way. It simply breathed. The moss puffed lightly under their feet. The trees leaned in like they were listening. And ahead, the path lit up with tiny floating orbs that looked like sleepy lightning bugs made of cotton. Finn reached out and cupped one in his hands. It buzzed faintly and projected a soft hum, almost like a lullaby. Jake's ears perked up. Yo, Is that music? They followed the trail, the sound growing just slightly with every step. Not louder, fuller, like a hum remembered from childhood, or a melody sung by a parent through a half-closed door. They stepped into a glade they hadn't seen before. In its center stood a ring of stone benches covered in quilted moss. In the middle of the ring, an instrument. It didn't look like anything they'd seen in Ooh, a mix between a harp, a dream catcher, and a xylophone made from teacups. As Finn stepped closer, a string plucked itself, soft and clear, like the sound of stars clinking against each other. BMO gasped. A dream singer? Jake tilted his head. A what now? BMO explained. It only plays when friends sit still together, like really still, really together. It sings the shape of your rest. They all sat on the moss benches, not to perform, not to listen, just to be. The air cooled, and just slightly, brushing over them like a sleepy breeze through the mind. The moss beneath them adjusted itself, shaping perfectly to their bodies. Finn leaned back with a quiet sigh. Jake melted into his seat like pancake syrup. BMO rested both arms over his tiny chest, screen dimming a little. Then, the instrument began to play. Not music like they knew it. Just a blend of sound and feeling. A soft pluck here. A distant chime. The faint sound of someone yawning in another dream entirely. And underneath it all, a rhythm. Steady, slow, comforting. Like the beat of a heart that knows it's safe. No one spoke. They didn't need to, because the song changed with them. When Jake thought of Lady, the notes bent like a hug. When Finn remembered a quiet afternoon from years ago, the harp drifted into a lullaby he'd long forgotten. When BMO dreamed of dancing in a teacup, the melody turned bubbly and playful before fading again into stillness. It wasn't a concert. It was a reflection. A musical version of rest, of love, of being known. And when it finished, and if it ever really finished, it didn't stop. It just softened, settling back into silence like a blanket pulled up to your chin. Finn blinked, eyes damp and half closed. I don't think I've ever heard something that gentle before. Jake stretched, tail twitching like a sleepy metronome. We should carry this feeling everywhere, like in our pockets. BMO stood and faced the instrument. Thank you for singing our sleepy song. Then the instrument bowed back, or at least, it seemed to. A faint shimmer, a deep tone of gratitude in return. The path appeared again, this time not glowing but glimmering, as if stardust were embedded in each step. The forest had given them its heart. Now it invited them back. As they followed the stardust path back through the dream forest, the sounds of the dream singer faded behind them, like an echo remembered in a smile. The forest had quieted again, but not like before. This quiet was full, like a book gently closing after the final page. Jake bounced a little as he walked, each step softly squishing into moss. So do we tell anyone about this place? Or is it like a secret nap club? Finn shrugged, arms folded behind his head as he strolled. I think maybe it's just for us. For whenever we need it again. BMO twirled gently like a leaf caught in a breeze. Some dreams are like toothbrushes. You don't share them. They all laughed, low and easy. The path brought them past new dream creatures now peeking out from bushes and canopies. One tiny fluff ball with legs waved and gave a soft squeak. Another hovered near Jake's face and gently placed a dandelion puff in his hair. Look at you, Finn smirked. The new prince of Pollenland. I wear this pollen with honor, Jake declared, posing dramatically. The dandelion fell off 2 seconds later. They passed under a curved archway of bioluminescent vines, which rippled like wind chimes as they walked beneath. And then they saw it. their fire. Still there. Still glowing gently, right where they left it. But now it sat at the edge of the dream forest instead of its center. Like the whole world had shifted, just slightly. The sleep seed had grown, sure, but so had they. They stepped into the campfire circle, and instantly the forest dimmed behind them. Just enough to let the fire's warm glow retake center stage. Finn sat cross-legged, sighing contentedly. That forest was like a nap we didn't know we needed. Jake flopped beside him. Dude, we've had wild adventures, but that might have been the coziest one yet. BMO tiptoed to the stone where the sleep seed had once rested. It was gone now, but in its place, something else had bloomed. A single flower. It didn't look like any flower they knew. Its petals shifted gently from lavender to silver to sleepy rose. Its stem was fuzzy, like it had been knitted. And at its center glowed a soft white spiral, slowly spinning, like the beginning of a dream. Finn leaned closer. What do you think it is? BMO tilted their head. A dream bloom. They only grow from sleep that's been shared. Jake sniffed it. Smells like warm blankets and old cereal boxes. Finn grinned. Can we take it back? The flower pulsed gently, and suddenly it floated, detaching from its stem like it knew it had a place to go. It hovered for a moment, then drifted toward Finn. He caught it in his hands, and the petals curled inward, forming a glowing sphere small enough to tuck into his pocket. Finn's eyes softened. We'll keep it safe. BMO nodded. And it'll keep us safe. Jake stretched and lay back, eyes half-lidded. If I don't fall asleep in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna nap out of principle. They all laughed again, and as they settled around the fire once more, the sky overhead began to shift. Not quite morning, not quite night. A dreamy middle space where time doesn't matter and hearts are light. The dream forest behind them faded into mist, not lost, just resting, waiting for next time. The fire cracked softly, its flames calm now. No sparks flying, just steady warmth. The kind of fire that doesn't demand your attention, only offers it. Finn leaned his head on his knees and closed his eyes. You know what's weird? Jake, already half melted into his blanket, mumbled, everything in the best way. Yeah, Finn chuckled. But also, how quiet can feel so loud, like I can still hear the dream forest in my chest. BMO was lying on their back, watching a firefly orbit their screen. That's because you didn't just walk through it. It walked through you. There was a soft silence after that. The kind that only happens when everything that needed to be said already was. Finn reached into his pocket and took out the dream bloom again. It had changed slightly. Still soft. Still glowing. But now there was something inside it. A faint swirl of colors, like the reflection of every moment they'd lived in the forest. The music. The laughter. The mirror. The stillness. Should we plant this again? Finn asked. Jake shook his head. Nah, I think it plants us. Wherever we are, this thing reminds us how to be still. BMO sat up. We could plant it in our hearts. They all paused, then nodded. Yeah, that felt right. The moon above shifted slightly in the sky, casting a silvery light across the camp. It caught the edges of their blankets, the curve of the fire ring, and the soft, sleepy smiles on all three faces. Suddenly, the light from the dream bloom flared just for a second. Not bright, just noticeable. And in that light, the dream teller appeared, not in person, not fully, just a shimmer of form near the edge of the fire, like a shadow made of memory. They didn't speak this time. They simply lifted a hand, and the world paused, not stopped. Paused. The fire stilled, frozen mid-flicker. The wind held its breath. The bugs hung in the air like stars waiting to blink. Then one last whisper, soft as a sigh and slower than sleep. Ah, you carry it now. You always did. And just like that, the shimmer was gone. The fire resumed. The wind exhaled and the world began again. But it was different now, and not because the forest had changed, but because they had. Finn tucked the dream bloom back into his pocket and whispered, "Thanks." Jake stretched his limbs out so far he looked like a sleepy starfish. "I'm never leaving this spot," BMO giggled. "Let's build a tiny home in this moss and never pay rent." They all laid back then. The sky above glittered. Not with stars, but with the kind of glow that only shows up after the best kind of rest. And in that final, perfect stillness, something remarkable happened. They didn't fall asleep, not quite. Instead, they floated. Together. Not flying, not dreaming, just floating. In a bubble of peace, built by friendship, softness, and silence. The kind of silence that wraps around you like a blanket and whispers, "You are safe." They didn't need more rooms or tests or songs. The forest had already given them its greatest treasure, a memory that could be carried, a stillness they could return to, even in the real world, even on the busiest days, even when things got loud again. The campfire crackled gently. The moss breathed softly. And above it all, the final star blinked once, then slowly, gently faded. The campfire hadn't burned out. Even after all the dream walking, the floating, the lullabies, it still crackled quietly, low and steady. Its flames looked almost sleepy now, like they were swaying between yawns. Finn propped his chin on his knees and watched it. "It's weird," he murmured. "I feel like I slept for 100 years and woke up exactly the same." Jake lay beside the fire with his paws folded over his belly. "Same. But like, my bones feel cozier. Is that a thing? Cozy bones?" BMO was humming softly, tracing little spirals in the dirt. "Your bones are probably just full of bedtime now." There was something different in the air, not colder, not darker, just more aware, as if the fire, the earth, and even the shadows were leaning in a little, like they were listening too. Finn reached into his pocket and held up the dream bloom again. Its spiral center was gently pulsing, like it was synced to the rhythm of the forest. Jake's ears twitched. "Yo, that flower just exhaled." Finn blinked. "Wait, no joke, I felt it. In my chest. Like a warm whoosh." Then the wind changed. Just slightly. It carried with it the soft scent of lavender and moss and maybe something like memory. Finn stood slowly and turned toward the path behind them, the one that had led into the dream forest. It was gone. Not hidden. Gone. In its place, trees had folded inward, soft and drowsy, as if they'd finished their shift and gone to bed. But something else had replaced the path. Tiny lights, not floating, rooted. Dozens of sleepy glowing sprouts had pushed up from the mossy ground all around the fire pit, each one softly blinking like they were breathing. Jake sat up. "Bro, did we just grow nap lanterns?" Finn kneeled beside one and touched it gently. It didn't wilt. It didn't vanish. It leaned toward him as if listening to his thoughts and glowed warmer. BMO crouched beside another. "These are dreamlings, baby memories from good rest." Finn turned toward the campfire again. The wood hadn't burned down. In fact, there was more of it than before. But the logs weren't normal anymore. Each one had a small pattern on it, a carved shape, like a fingerprint made of whispers. And the flames weren't orange, they were gold, like melted dreams. Jake leaned forward. "Is it just me, or is this fire remembering things?" The fire let out a soft pop. And then, very clearly, it projected something. Not like a screen, not like magic. Just a feeling, a shape of light and hush. It looked like Finn and Jake, as little kids, sitting on the same log, wrapped in two big blankets, eating cold cereal out of mugs. It only lasted a moment, then flickered away. Finn swallowed. That was one of our first campouts. Jake's eyes were wide. Whoa, it didn't just remember. It showed it. BMO clapped quietly. This is a memory fire. They burn with what you've been brave enough to rest from. Finn sat back down slowly, heart full and chest light. So it's keeping our peace warm? Jake laid his head back again. Dude, I've never wanted a nap inside a fire before, but I'm about to risk it. The memory fire flared softly, almost like it laughed. And from the base of its glow, a small trail began to form, one not made of dirt or dreams, but of soft white stones, leading somewhere new. Finn stepped lightly onto the first glowing stone. It was warm, not hot, not magical in a flashy way, just comforting. Like a biscuit fresh out of the oven that says, "Hey, take your time." Jake stepped behind him, stretching his legs just a little longer so he could land 3 stones ahead. "Speed napping style," he whispered. BMO, ever floaty, skipped between them like a pebble on a sleepy pond. Wherever this goes, I hope there's pudding. The trail of white stones curved gently through the edge of the camp and beyond the firelight, but the glow from the memory fire followed, each stone lighting up just in time for their feet to find it. As they moved, the dream forest didn't vanish. It just thinned. The trees grew shorter. The moss faded into tall, dewy grass. The sky above turned softer, not darker, like it had pulled a cloud blanket halfway over itself. Finn took a long breath. You ever feel like you're waking up and falling asleep at the same time? Jake nodded slowly. Yeah, like my brain is stretching its arms and yawning into a hammock. The air began to hum, not loudly, just a low vibration, like a cat purring from inside a closet. And ahead of them was a shape, a gentle outline, of something very familiar. Finn squinted. Wait, is that our treehouse? Jake asked. Dude, did it follow us into the dream? They stepped closer. Sure enough, rising up from the grass, soft-edged and shimmering in that not-quite-dream glow, was their treehouse. But it wasn't exactly the same. It looked sleepier. The ladder was a swirl of braided vines. The windows glowed faintly from within, like nightlights with memories. The door swung open slowly, even though no one touched it. Inside, warm light spilled out like syrup. Finn turned to BMO, wide-eyed. Is this real? BMO tilted their head. It's a dream memory hybrid. A sleep house. Jake tilted his head. So like a copy of our house, but made of bedtime thoughts? Finn took a step inside. No, it's ours. Just the version of it we feel safest in. As they entered, the air got warmer. Inside was everything they loved. Blankets stacked high, mugs that always stayed warm, their favorite drawings pinned to the walls. The rug even had Jake's old juice stain shaped like a jelly bean. Finn whispered, "This place remembers everything we forgot we loved." A kettle whistled gently on the stove, no fire beneath it. Just steam made of calm. Jake plopped down onto the couch, which sighed beneath him, like a pillow made of good decisions. BMO jumped onto a stool and spun gently, arms out. It's like the whole house is tucking us in. And then something changed. Not scary, not fast, just soft. From the ceiling drifted small floating specks, like snowflakes made of lullabies. Each one touched something. Jake's arm, Finn's hair, BMO's screen, and melted on contact. The room exhaled. And from the back wall, something bloomed. Not a plant. A door, shimmering and tall, framed with stars. Finn stepped toward it. Guys, I think that's the way back. Jake didn't move. Back where? Finn smiled softly. Back home. For real. The waking world. Jake looked around the sleep house. Do we have to leave? No, Finn said. But I think it'll come with us. And he was right. Because the closer they came to the door, the more the house seemed to gather itself up. Not to vanish, but to carry. Like a backpack of memories. A warmth you could take with you. Finn reached for the doorknob. It wasn't cold. It wasn't even a knob, really. More like a soft, warm ripple in the wood. Like a memory you could turn. He pressed his palm into it. The door pulsed once, and then opened. Not with a creak, not with a bang. Simply parted. Like a curtain pulled back by a breeze. And on the other side was morning. Soft, misty, real morning. Not a dream version. The sky was gray-blue, and the trees of the waking world stood steady, unmoving. A bird chirped somewhere, not musical, just doing its job. The smell of damp leaves and sunlight was thick in the air. But there was something different. Something left over. Behind them, the sleep house shimmered. But it didn't vanish. It folded into itself. Like a flower at dawn. It swirled down and down into a glowing pebble-sized shape, which hovered midair and floated gently toward Finn's hands. Jake stared. Bro, the dream gave you a tiny house? Finn caught it. The pebble pod was soft to the touch, pulsing with warmth. BMO leaned close. That's your sleep core. You can plant it again, anywhere, anytime. Finn tucked it gently beside the dream bloom in his pocket. Jake stretched long and lazy, letting the morning sun hit his face. Man, everything looks dreamier now, even though we're back. Finn looked around, too. Yeah, like everything's got a soft edge now. As they walked through the clearing back toward their actual treehouse, little things caught their eyes. A squirrel sipping from a teacup balanced on a mushroom. A sleepy cloud sheep drifting above the treetops, its wool gently glowing. And when they reached the base of their tree, the latter had a soft purple ribbon tied to it. One none of them remembered placing. Jake touched it and grinned. Souvenir. They climbed up slowly, not talking much. There wasn't anything to say. Their real home felt warmer than usual. The couch was still crooked. The kitchen still a little messy. But the air inside, peaceful. Like the whole place had been waiting for them. Finn lit a candle on the windowsill. Jake brewed some tea. Not because they needed it, but because it smelled like stillness. And BMO placed a tiny folded note on the table. What's that? Finn asked. BMO said, a bedtime reminder for later. Jake yawned. Do we even need to sleep again? I feel like I'm inside a nap right now. Finn laughed. Yeah, but like a cool nap. A nap with pockets. He pulled out the dream bloom and the sleep core pebble. They glowed faintly. Jake leaned over. Let's plant one of those suckers in the backyard. Finn raised an eyebrow. Which one? Jake scratched his head. The one that grows quiet. Or maybe the one that plays music when we don't talk. BMO offered. Plant both. Let them dream together. So they did. Outside, beneath the big willow tree, Finn dug 2 small holes and gently set each gift in the soil. As he patted the dirt down, the earth gave off a tiny shimmer. The tree rustled softly above them, even though the wind was still. And then, that was it. No big spark. No grand goodbye. Just the quiet promise that something magical had happened, and they'd always carry it. Not in their pockets, Dot, but in how they moved through the world. The days that followed were quieter. Not in a sad way. Just in a we've seen something special kind of way. Jake would stretch out on the porch and stare at the clouds, Not to look through them, but with them. Just lying there, eyes half-lidded, paws behind his head. Finn found himself slowing down during sword practice. Not because he was tired, but because he liked how it felt to move without rushing. The grass beneath him always seemed a bit softer now, and BMO built a tiny music box out of old screws and a jelly bean. It only played when nobody was listening too hard, a lullaby for almost hearing. They didn't talk about the campfire much, didn't need to, but every once in a while they'd feel something strange and wonderful. A warm glow from the bookshelf even when no sun hit it. A shimmer across the pond that looked like a dreamling swimming. The faint smell of toasted marshmallows when nobody had lit anything. Just little signs, like the dream hadn't left, like it was watching over them. Or maybe, just maybe, they had become part of it. One afternoon, Finn went to check on the willow tree where they'd planted the dream bloom and the sleep core. And what he found there made his heart float. A tiny sprout had grown. It wasn't tall, it wasn't flashy, just a single stalk with two soft leaves, each glowing slightly. The air around it shimmered in a way that wasn't visible exactly, more like felt. Jake joined him a moment later, munching on toast. Whoa, we got a dreamweed. Finn chuckled. It's like the dream followed us home and decided to unpack. Good, Jake said, sitting beside him. I like when the weird sticks around. They sat there for a while, not saying much, just breathing in the sleepy sunlight, the warm hush of the grass, the tiny rustling of the dream sprout growing slowly beside them. BMO joined a few minutes later with a cup of warm cereal water. Together, they just were. No adventures, no monsters, no explosions, just quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after the good stuff. The kind that says, we made it, now let's rest. That night, the sky was clear. Finn stood on the roof of the treehouse, arms crossed, looking out over the fields. The stars didn't twinkle like they usually did. They pulsed, slowly, sleepily. Same rhythm as the dream bloom, he whispered. He could feel it now, deep inside. The rhythm of the forest. The peace of the memory fire. The stillness of the sleep house. All of it. With him. Not as a thought, not even as a memory, but as something alive. He turned as Jake joined him, dragging up a soft quilt and plopping it over both their shoulders. Everything still feel floaty to you? Jake asked. Finn nodded. In the best way. They sat in silence, staring up. The stars above blinked once, then dimmed just slightly, like they were closing their eyes too. The soft rustling behind them made them turn. There, climbing slowly up the treehouse ladder, without making a sound, was Toasty. Toasty, the little dream creature from the fire circle. The same one who had followed Grizz and the others in their own dream world, now drifting sleepily toward Finn and Jake. But he wasn't flickering this time. He was real, tangible, still glowing faintly like embers in the dark. Jake's mouth fell open. Bro, did that little toast guy escape the dream? Toasty blinked once, sat down, curled up on the quilt between them. Then, very faintly, snored. Finn grinned wide. Okay, that's officially the cutest thing that's ever happened. BMO peeked up below with a tiny mug of steam. We have a dream stowaway. They stayed like that for a long while. Just the three of them and Toasty, wrapped in one big blanket, breathing in the night, letting the hush of the dream linger just a little longer. And then, the tiniest flame flickered at the edge of the platform, not from the house, not from a lantern, but from the air itself. A small flame, like a whisper. No wood, no smoke, just a shape. The shape of the campfire. Their campfire. It hovered in the air for just a moment, then gently settled on the wooden floor beside them. It glowed. It breathed. It didn't burn anything. And when Jake leaned close to it, he heard something. Not words, not sounds, just a feeling. Like the fire was saying, "You brought us back with you, and we'll be here whenever you need rest." Jake reached out, his paw hovering above it. "It's still warm." Finn nodded slowly. "I don't think we ever left." "Not really." Toasty stirred, curled deeper into the fold of the quilt. BMO sat down next to the flame and blinked slowly. "That's bedtime, isn't it?" Jake yawned. "Oh, yeah, like eternal bedtime." Finn smiled, lying back fully now. "But in the best way. Not like sleep forever. More like knowing you can." Above them, the stars faded just slightly, turning from silver to lavender. The kind of sky color you only see right before the best kind of sleep. And in the quiet of it all, the floating fire gave one final pulse of golden light, then slowly winked out. Not gone, just resting, like all of them. As they drifted off into their hammocks and soft beanbags, one by one the sounds of the waking world faded into a hush, and the dream didn't vanish. It just made room. Room for sleep. Room for softness. Room for every night ahead that might be tough, so they'd remember. Peace is something you can carry. Stillness is something you can keep. And the best part? You don't have to go anywhere to find it. Sometimes the campfire comes home with you, and it burns on, soft and slow, right there beside your pillow. The morning came slow, not with trumpets, not with rooster screams, just softly. Like it knew the house was full of dreamers and didn't want to wake them too fast. The sun peeked over the hills like a curious cat. Pale golden light drifted through the leaves outside the treehouse windows, painting everything with buttery warmth. Finn was the first to stir. His hair was sticking up like a cactus, but his face looked peaceful. He blinked slowly at the ceiling, yawned once, then didn't move. He just existed. So did the quiet. "Then, bro," came Jake's voice from the couch. It was muffled by several pillows. Finn rolled over with a half smile. "Hey." Jake peeked out, his eyes sleepy but happy. "That was the deepest dream vacation I've ever taken. My soul did like 12 backflips in bed." Finn chuckled. "I think I'm still dreaming a little." They lay in silence again. Outside, birds chirped, but only the polite kind. None of that loud sunrise nonsense. And the leaves on the trees swayed in a way that felt more like a cradle than a breeze. Then a tiny pop. Toasty. The sleepy dream creature waddled out from under a blanket, climbed onto Finn's chest, and flopped down like a warm marshmallow. He let out a single, content snore. Finn gently pet the top of Toasty's head. "Glad you stuck around, little guy." Jake stretched into a long noodle shape across the floor. "I'm telling you, we gotta build that dream door again sometime. Maybe make it a monthly sleepcation." Finn sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. The room felt different. Not in a bad way. Not even magical, really. Just quiet in a good way. BMO rolled in on tiny wheels, carrying a tray with 3 steaming mugs. "Warm cereal water for all. Welcome to your very first morning after magic rest." Jake took a mug and held it like a sleepy trophy. To magical naps, and to real mornings that feel like dream leftovers. Finn sipped his and looked toward the open window. The backyard looked just like always, but in the shadow of the willow tree, something had grown. The sprout they'd planted had become a tiny, glowing sapling. It shimmered faintly, like it remembered what peace tasted like. Jake followed Finn's gaze. "You think that'll grow into a tree made of dreams?" BMO whispered. "No. but it'll grow into a tree that knows how to rest. They all watched it in silence. It was small, it was simple. But it felt like the start of something. Not a new quest, not a problem to solve, just a way of living, a softness to return to. The rest of the day moved slowly. Finn practiced a little swordplay, not to fight, but to flow. Jake napped twice, once accidentally. BMO built a music box that played different lullabies based on who touched it. And Toasty? Toasty slept in a hammock most of the afternoon, his soft golden glow attracting exactly 3 butterflies and 1 curious squirrel. Later that morning, Finn and Jake took a walk through the forest trails just beyond their treehouse. No weapons, no missions. Just bare feet on soft grass, arms swinging lazily, the gentle creak of trees above them like nature yawning in harmony. The sunlight filtered through the canopy in golden threads, casting sleepy shapes on the forest floor. It smelled like moss and morning bread. Jake padded along, belly jiggling with every step. Man, it's like everything got extra nap-friendly. Finn plucked a fuzzy dandelion puff and blew it gently into the breeze. Yeah, like the world hit a snooze button, and it's still smiling in its sleep. A breeze rolled through the trees then, not cold, not strong, just the kind that wraps around you like a well-tucked blanket. They reached a quiet glade and sat on a patch of moss. No talking, or just breathing. Above them, a small cloud drifted low and slow, fluffy, round, and glowing faintly blue. It let out the gentlest bay. Finn looked up, smirking. That's one of the dream sheep. Jake squinted. Still floating? Dang. Wonder if it's got a bedtime job, or if it's just vibing. The sheep hovered lower, and for a moment, just one warm blink of a moment, it floated in a circle around them, then up, leaving behind a faint spiral of sleepy sparkles in the air. Jake nodded. Definitely vibing. Back at the treehouse, BMO had set up what looked like a welcome back from dreamland station. There were snacks, soft ambient music played from a flowerpot radio, and a new poster hung on the wall. Daily quiet time, optional but strongly recommended. Toasty sat at the top of the bookshelf, still snoozing. His glow flickered slightly. Now a mix of gold and lilac, like he was full of dawn light. Finn leaned on the counter, watching the room in slow motion. Jake joined him with a banana in one hand and a pillow under the other arm. Hey, Jake said, what if we built a campfire again tonight? Finn raised an eyebrow. Like, in the yard? Nope, Jake said, mouthful. Inside. But like a tiny one, just for vibes, no fire, just pillows and flickering lights and dream talking. Finn nodded slowly. That sounds kind of perfect. That night they did exactly that. They built a circle of cushions in the center of the living room. BMO created a flickering light made of tea steam and soft, glowy marbles. They each brought a blanket. And as the stars came out, real ones this time, they sat together. No spells, no dream doors, just them. In the same place they'd always been, but changed. Softer, stronger, sleepier in the best way. Jake let out a long sigh. I didn't think you could bring a dream home with you. Finn replied, I think the dream wanted to come home. The little flame in the center pulsed once. Toasty rolled over on Jake's shoulder, nuzzling into the crook of his neck. BMO whispered, everything's better when you give it time to rest. The whole house exhaled, and in that last quiet moment, the warmth of the dream didn't fade. It simply became part of the walls, the couch, the floorboards, and the hearts of the ones who'd lit that campfire in the first place. The next morning felt like a stretch after the perfect nap. Sunlight lazily spilled through the windows like it, too, had slept in a little. The whole treehouse seemed to breathe in time with the outside world, slow, content, and not in any rush. Finn was already up, kneeling beside the little sapling beneath the willow. The dream bloom had now bloomed, a single glowing flower the color of dusk. Not morning, not night, just dream. He didn't pick it, didn't touch it, just sat beside it, letting it glow, letting it be. Jake eventually rolled out in a long, stretchy puddle and joined him with 2 slices of dream toast he'd made using actual toast and a touch of dream glitter BMO had saved in a jar. They sat together on the grass, quietly chewing. Finn broke the silence. "You know what I liked most?" Jake raised a brow. "That nothing had to be fixed," Finn said. "No villain, no trap, just stillness." Jake swallowed a bite and nodded. "Yeah, man, and that was weirdly hard for me. Like I kept waiting for some evil broom monster to sweep in and yell no more sleep. But nope, just good vibes. And naps," Finn added. Jake gave a sleepy salute. "To the noble nap." They clinked their toast slices like mugs. Just then, a familiar rustle came from the trees behind them. Not loud, not startling, just soft. Toasty wandered out from under a fern, rubbing his little marshmallow eyes, glowing faintly gold and peach now. He carried a leaf in one hand like a blanket. "Did you sleep outside?" Finn asked, smiling. Toasty nodded once, then waddled over to the dream bloom and curled up beside it like it was a campfire. Jake let out a long exhale. "That little guy's got life figured out." Back inside, BMO was hosting what they now called the morning murmur. It was a quiet gathering. No talking unless it was whisper level. There were tiny pancakes and even tinier cups of steam. Music played from a record that sounded like a memory humming. The treehouse was no longer just a base. It had become a resting place. A gentle echo of the dream campfire now lived in every cozy corner. The way the pillows fluffed themselves just a bit more, the way doors made soft creaks like bedtime songs, the way the sunlight didn't blind but hugged. Even the fridge hummed softer. Later that afternoon, Finn found something tucked beneath his pillow. It was a folded note, no name on it. He opened it. Inside, just 5 words, written in a glowing purple ink that faded as he read it. "You brought the dream home." He held the note against his chest, smiled, and closed his eyes for a moment. That night, the stars looked different, not brighter, not louder, just familiar, like they recognized the one staring back at them. Finn and Jake lay side by side on a picnic blanket just outside the treehouse, heads tilted toward the sky, Toasty snuggled between them like a warm bedtime pebble. The treehouse glowed from inside with the golden pulse of candles and twinkly lights, soft shadows dancing against the windows. BMO played a lullaby from somewhere nearby, just low enough to feel like a hum at the edge of a dream. Finn pointed at a slow-moving star. "That one's definitely still dreaming." Jake mumbled, "Bet it's dreaming about napping inside a dream inside a burrito." They both laughed. But it was quiet laughter, the kind that doesn't disturb the night. Finn turned on his side, gazing at Toasty. "He followed us out of the dream," Finn whispered. "Stayed with us, like he knew." Jake nodded slowly. "Yeah, knew we needed a reminder. That rest isn't weak. The stillness is strong." Toasty gave a little chirp in his sleep like he agreed. The air shimmered faintly around them. Not magic exactly, just something warm, like the dream fire was still watching. And then a breeze rolled through the clearing. It carried the smell of marshmallows, fresh rain, and something even softer, like time itself slowing down just enough to yawn. From the trees, a quiet rustle. And then the fire appeared, just like before. Not in a flash, not in a flame, just was. Hovering gently a few feet above the ground, floating, flickering, familiar. The campfire of dreams. Finn sat up, heart full. Jake whispered. It came back. The fire pulsed once, twice, then settled into a slow, steady glow, and from it they heard, not with their ears, but somewhere deeper, a message, a sleepy whisper, a bedtime truth. You've made space for peace. Let it live here now, every time you sleep, every time you breathe. Let the quiet find you. Finn closed his eyes. Let the words fill him. Jake leaned back and smiled, paw behind his head. You hear that, bro? That's like the dreamiest blessing ever. Toasty fluttered up into the air, hovered once around the fire, then floated down onto Finn's shoulder and curled up. The dream fire flickered softly, then blinked out. No smoke, no end, just a quiet hush. The three of them sat for a long while, watching the stars, breathing in the night, letting the stillness wrap around them like a weighted blanket. Eventually, Finn stood, gently lifting Toasty and carrying him inside. Jake followed, dragging the picnic blanket behind him like a sleepy cape. Inside the treehouse, the lights dimmed one by one. BMO tucked in beneath a flower-shaped blanket. The kitchen lamp blinked off with a tiny sigh, and the house settled. Not into silence, but into rest. The kind that hums. The kind that says, we made it through another day. Now let's drift together. Finn pulled the curtains close, climbed into bed, and stared at the ceiling. Jake was already softly snoring, his head propped on a pillow shaped like a dream cloud. Toasty's tiny glow shimmered from a nest of quilts near the bookshelf. Finn took one last deep breath, let it out, and closed his eyes. And just before sleep took him, he felt it again, the warmth of the fire, the hush of the dream, the peace that follows you home. And now that the fire's gone quiet, and the stars are blinking slow, let your eyes close too, and let the dream follow you home.